Hey everybody, what we're going to be covering in this video is just a general walkthrough of the profit map from end to end, okay? I want to make sure that you understand the details of the report that you have just received because you need to know all the little details for everything. And so I am going to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the report and the data. And so just to make sure that you are able to understand where everything is coming from, how it all comes together, and so that way your brain will be it'll be easier for your brain to understand it. When you actually understand the components of everything, it makes it really easy to understand like the end piece and then how to use it and how to manipulate it in a way that is useful for you, right? So maybe you'll figure something out that I haven't figured out, but because you know the basics and you know where everything's coming from, you can actually make a lot of sense of it, okay? So this is just going to be a tutorial and an explanation of the data and the map itself, all right? So first off, we're looking at the raw data. That's what you're going to get. You're going to receive a Google Sheet. It's going to be for whatever section whatever city you select. You can see that this one is for Dallas, Texas, and it's going to look very similar to what we're seeing right now. This is the raw data. As you can see, the very first, there's a bunch of different tabs down here, right? And this one right here is the first one, which is just the raw data. It's how I pull it out. And when you're looking at it in these columns, there's different data points. So you can see that there's the title, the number of days tracked, occupancy, average daily rate, bedrooms, bathrooms, and it keeps going along like this all the way through. We have the number of reviews, we have the revenue number. There's if they have a HomeAway property, it's shown there. The lat and the long, which is very important because we want to know exactly where these listings are located, right? And so it's really nice that we're able to get that information as well. We also have the region, which is generally the neighborhood, so like a zip code or a neighborhood. And then the region is also based off of the way that AirDNA actually breaks everything up. So if you go into one of AirDNA's cities like Chicago, and then you were to look into like the neighborhoods, they're gonna or sorry, if you go to like get a zip code or a neighborhood, you know, you can go from a city or just a specific location. That's what the regions are, okay? And then the property type, you know, if we have a townhouse, a loft, something like that, then this is the room type. So obviously with Airbnb, you can rent out the entire home, you can rent out just a room, or you can rent out a shared room. And so we have the three different room types, which is very important. And then the last piece here is the actual link. So the link to the Airbnb listing, which is one of the most important things that we get because we need to be able to see everything. And as you can see here with Google Sheets, it gives you a little preview. So I can actually just click on this and then move forward from there. So you can see, you have an idea of all the different data that we have in here. This here is just an image cover. It's the very first photo. It's not very useful. Don't worry about that. This is just a property ID. Not all of it is going to be useful data. So that's one thing that I've probably mentioned before already is that, you know, when we receive data, there's some parts of it that are useful and most of it is not useful, to be honest. Most of it is just not used unless you're trying to like really understand something right down to the nittiest detail that there is. Nittiest grittiest detail. I don't know what I was trying to say there. Doesn't matter. Anyways, what I want to explain, a couple things here, is first off, days tracked. Now, most of the time you're going to see this, it's going to say days available. And I've most likely already explained this already at one point or another while going through this course, or I'm going to explain it multiple times. I don't care. I think it's really important that you understand this. AirDNA, the way that AirDNA works, they have an algorithm that goes into every single Airbnb listing every single day, and they record the calendar of that Airbnb listing. They obviously record a lot of other information, but the most important thing is they record the calendar. And so they look at the calendar and they see what days are available, what the nightly rate is, and what the cleaning fee is, and they record that. And then they come back the next day, and if that day gets booked, they assume that it got booked at the daily rate that they tracked the day before, right? So that would give them the revenue that they expect. You know, if it was $100 and $100 cleaning fee, they expect that you made $200 on that day, right? And they do this every single day. So it's days, like I said, this normally says days available, but it's days tracked. And that's how many days that they've been watching or tracking that listing. So you can see this one here has been 283 days. This one's been 40 days. And so this is the revenue number that we're looking at, which is this number right over here, is based off of that number of days. Now, the reason this is so important is because when we're doing calculations, we need to know how much they're making over an entire year, right? Not just part of a year, because our expenses are over a full year. And so we need to know what the revenue is over a entire year. Naturally, obviously, makes sense, right? So obviously with 283 days, there's 2.5, 3 months, about 3 months that are missing there. So we can assume that they'll do slightly more than this, but not a crazy amount more. And so we can kind of assume that that's close to a year's number. Whereas with this 40 days being tracked, we obviously know that that's not a full year, right? Only making $3,000. Now you can't say, well, why don't I just take this number and times it by 11 or 10, right? And then I have the full year. Well, the issue is these past, this one as an example, is the 40 days that have been tracked during peak season or slow season or mid season. And if we take that number and times it by 11, we're just going to be timesing it by that part of the year and not the true seasonality of the location or the listing. And that's something that you'll get to know really well with this Airbnb industry, is that there are truly high and low seasons, and there's nothing that you can do about it other than be in multiple markets, right? So anyways, days tracked, that's the information. There is the number of days that Airbnb has been going in and actually reviewing that information. Okay. So once again, this is the raw data. This is the very first sheet. This is the sheet that you're probably never going to use for anything whatsoever, because I've never used it for anything whatsoever. Then what I do is I have this other tab here where it's just the entire homes. So I remove all of the pieces of data that are private room and shared room. So those are gone, and because we don't need them, because I'm assuming that you're going to be a full-time host, right? If you bought this course, if you're going through this information, you're most likely somebody who's trying to do this on a full-time basis, or at least like pick up a good side hustle, and you're not just renting out an extra bedroom. So we remove all that information, right? And then what I do is I remove all of the listings that have less than 265 days. And the reason I do this is because everything I just mentioned, right? I want to have listings that have been tracked for almost a full year, because then we're going to be looking at the almost annual revenue number, which is the number that I need because it's gone through all the different seasons, right? Highs and lows and whatnot. And so this here is mainly the most useful information that I'm going to have. It's the cleanest data that I can get on a larger scale, okay? And so just to show you, we started off in this raw data. As you can see, I switched back to this tab. And if I were to scroll all the way down, you can see that there are 4,119 listings. Okay, this is for Dallas, Texas, as of August 31st, 2021. And when I come back over to here, once I've removed the data that I find not useful, right, you can see that we actually only end up with 590. So it removes a lot of data. So like I had mentioned multiple times already, there's a lot of bad data in the data that we receive, and we need to get rid of that information. Now, right now, because the past 300 days from this date have been COVID times, there's a lot less listings that have been listed for an entire 365 days. And so that's why this number is so drastic, going from 4,000 to 500, 600. And so that's not typical, and it won't be moving forward, and this number keeps increasing as time goes on. But I just want to point that out as a little side note. Anyways, the main piece, right? So the main thing that we do here is we take all this information, and we put it into a pivot table. And this is where the magic really comes into play. And what I'm actually going to do is hop over to the Chicago listing, because it's the one I'm the most familiar with and the one I enjoy speaking about, the one I can speak about the best, right? And so this is what you end up getting. This is the profit map that you've paid for, that you want, that's going to be your main resource, right? And I'll explain to you exactly how it works. So on the left-hand side, we have all of the regions or neighborhoods, zip codes, whatever it may be, depending on how it comes through. So just so you know, for Chicago, the neighborhoods are listed out very well on a government level. So like you can go through neighborhoods really, really easily, but not a lot of locations are like that. It's mainly just zip codes. And so for Chicago, it comes through as neighborhoods. Yours may come through as zip codes. Regardless, that's just something to keep in mind. So on the left-hand side, we have our regions. So we have all these different areas. And then up here, we have our unit sizes. Okay, so you can see this one is 0 bedroom, 1 bath, which would be a studio. Then we have a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, so 1 by 1. 1 bedroom, 1.5 bath. Then a 1 bedroom, 2 bath. 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. You get the idea, right? And it continues along this way all the way through. And so what we do is when we go 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and then line it up with this here, the neighborhood, what you end up getting is the average annual revenue for a 2 bedroom, 2 bath in near North Side, because the values in here are annual revenue. So you can see on this right-hand side here, you can see the information that is inputted. So let me walk you through it. First, we have our rows, which is going to be our neighborhoods, which was the first thing I explained, which is this here, right? And you can make it descending or ascending. We're just going to leave it as is. And then the next thing is our columns, which is going to be our these guys here, right? For anyone who's not familiar with what a column is. So you have our columns, and that's going to be our unique unit size. Okay, so that's going to be the way that I've put it together here, so you can read the size of the unit very easily. So 2 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, right? And then the next thing is our values. So what is actually in the heart of all of this, right? And I have it set up as the annual revenue. Okay, and so let me just move this so you can see. So this is the annual revenue. And when we are looking at this, we can actually summarize the information in multiple different ways. Okay. So right now, what we have it set up is the average formula. So we are looking at if it right here, this is the average of all of the 2 bedroom, 2 baths in near North Side, all of their annual revenue averaged out. Okay. And it averages to about 77,000. If I were to double click on this, what's going to happen is a new tab is going to actually pop open. So this is brand new. It was just made. New sheet created to show details, right? And now I can see that I'm looking at the details for near North Side, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. Okay. And I can very easily delete this and it's gone. And I don't have to worry about it. And I double click it again and we're back open and we're looking at it, right? And what this is now, this is every listing that falls in the category of a 2 bedroom, 2 bath within near North Side, right? And they've now been all brought together into this nice convenient little tab here for us to just be looking at that information alone. And from here, what we can do is we'll get into the other videos where it's going to be explaining all of this, but I'm not going to get into the details just yet. But just so you know, you can do that's how you would go deeper into a certain section that you were interested in, right? Now, another thing that's really important is all of these values here are averages, right? And like I've explained before, data is only useful when there's multiple points of data. So if we just have one listing in, let's say, who knows, let's say this one here is just one in Lincoln Square, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and it's saying that's 28,000. Well, if that's only one listing, it's actually not useful data because we don't know if that listing is doing really well or really poorly or right in the middle, and we can't really compare and say that we're going to do just as well as they are. What we want is we want multiple pieces of data, so 3+, the more the better, so that we can start to see a trend. And you want to see like 5 listings that are all making roughly around the exact same amount, and they all look very similar, because the idea is that you can then open up a listing that looks very similar to that and have a really good idea of what you're going to make if you just host properly, right? So we want multiple pieces of data. And so how do we figure out how many pieces of data, how many listings are being averaged in each one of these individual sections, right? Because that's going to be very important. The way we do that is you come over here to where it says average, and also just to point out, sorry, no, I'm just going to keep going. Come to where it says average, and you change this to count. And what it's going to do when you click count is all these numbers are going to change here, and it's going to tell you how many listings are in each one of these sections, right? And it's in the number formula. It's showing as a number because that's how I have it set up. It's showing as currency. But what this is saying here is that there's 35 listings here. There's 11 listings that are 2 bedroom, 1 bath in the near West Side that are all being averaged together. And this is an important thing to know, because if you were to go here and see, Wicker Park, a 1 bedroom, 2 bath, this only has one piece of data. So if I were to double click this, what you're going to see, it's going to pop open and there's only one row, right? Which means there's only one piece of information. That's not useful. That's not good, right? That also means that there's, not a lot of demand for, there's not a lot of 1 bedroom, 2.5 to 2 baths in anywhere, right? But essentially this is how you can also figure out demand. And I'll get into that a little bit more. But you can see obviously that Lakeview has 59 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So obviously there's a lot going on there, and there's a lot of demand for 1 bedroom, 1 baths in this part of the town. Things like that, right? But it's just useful to be able to actually go in and know how many listings you're looking at when you're seeing this average number, so that you don't get screwed up with bad data, something that doesn't have a trend. Okay. So anyways, that's that's another piece you'll need to know. That's the information you want to know. In the next video, what I'm going to be going over is actually how to read this map and like what to look for, how to understand it, things like that. But I really want to just cover how to understand everything about this map so you know exactly what you're looking at. The reason I call it a map, just to point this out again, is because when I look at this, I literally see the city and I see profit in all these different locations. So when I see when I know this is near Northside, I'm seeing near Northside in my brain and the revenue for all those different unit sizes in those areas, and it literally looks like a map in my brain, and I feel like that's what's going to happen with you as well. Some other things I want to point out before I end this video is one thing that I like to do is actually hide. So you can see right here that obviously the alphabet is out of order. And the reason being is because I have hidden a lot of units. And so let me just pop one of these open so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's see if I open up this one. So you can see here, there are listings that are, it's a studio with 2 bedrooms. And then there's a place that is a 1 bedroom with 0 baths. I don't find that useful. And so a good housekeeping idea here is just to take that. Oh, it's actually not useful. Take it and just hide it so that it's very clean and easy to see. And I generally like to keep it just the full unit, regular unit sizes. So a studio, a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, stuff like that. So I hide all of the ones that don't really make any sense or don't have a lot of data points. So that way it's easier to see. So that's just a little housekeeping tip. I don't think there's anything else that I need to cover on this. This is about everything that you should need to know to be able to navigate this. And as I'm going through the map, you'll get a hand for this as well. As you go through it yourself, you're going to get a feel for it as well. And it becomes easier as you keep going through. And you can always come back to this video to reference it if there's anything that you're confused about or don't understand. And that's the reason for the videos. So anyways, I hope this is helpful, and we're going to end this here and we'll hop over to the next video.